Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Matt Colville and recent advice he gave on the need for a dungeon master to be having fun when he is running a game, and what a dungeon master should do if she's not having fun running a game. And in my opinion, Matt Colville was dramatically wrong in this video, and I'm going to spend the majority of this video talking about how he was wrong and what the right answer is to what he was trying to address. So before we get any further, I'm going to spend the majority of this video saying that Matt Colville is wrong, okay? So I just want to address that, right? So one, the reason why I think it's okay to say, hey, I think this big platform D&D commentator is wrong, is one, they do have really large audiences, and if they get something wrong, it's good for the community to come out and say this is wrong right away, right? Like, and vocally. And the reason why, so that you don't get literally thousands of new or old game masters, dungeon masters, running the game incorrectly, right? And he's a public figure. Like, this isn't just one dude, you know. Well, he's public. He's making his content public. So the other thing I wanted to say too is, I'm going to say, you know, he is dramatically wrong, right? But that's not because he's not intelligent. I think that Matt Colville is a very skilled dungeon master who's highly intelligent, but he has some unique unique parameters around his own game that I think has created a blind spot, and it's one of the reasons why he has gotten this information wrong. So let's go over what he said, and then I'll say what he said wrong, and then I'll tell you the correct answer, okay? All right, so what did he say? He said recently, he did this video, terrible video in my opinion. So one of the things is he came right out and he said, hey, I haven't done a video in months. Why not, buddy? Like, you got a big platform, you're writing a bunch of books, like you had a Kickstarter that made $2 million. It seemed like it would warrant giving you enough time to do videos, right? But that's, each to his own. All right, so, and it drives me crazy when somebody starts a video apologizing for not doing videos. Come on, like, it's as old as dirt. Whatever. Nobody cares what your reason is. You should have done some videos. You didn't. Just move on. Like, come on. Like, jump in, right? So basically, then he says that he was saying that he was going to do a video about if you're having fun, your players are going to have fun, and that makes a fun game for everybody, and that's the right way to do D&D, right? And then he doubled down and he said, if you as the dungeon master are not having fun preparing for the game, you need to inject something into the game to make it fun for you. Or, if you can't do that, if you just have writer's block and you can't move forward, here's what you got to do. You have to, you show up at the table and you just tell everybody, hey, I'm not feeling it tonight, and XYZ player is going to run their game tonight, right? And this is what he said. So he's saying it's incredibly important that the dungeon master has fun running the game, okay? And if they don't have fun, the players aren't going to have fun, and then nobody had fun, and what was the point of it? What was the point of it, right? So I will say right now, I think this information is just outrageously, shockingly wrong, right? I think this could not be more wrong, right? So one, let's break it down. Here's why it's wrong, okay? So one, many people play Dungeons & Dragons to have fun. Okay, I get it, all right? And it's perfectly okay to play Dungeons & Dragons to have fun, but it is not even remotely the end-all, be-all of a Dungeons & Dragons game, okay? The reality is Dungeons & Dragons is a vector. It is a vector for three things: art, literature, and gaming, okay? It is far more than a game, right? And so, I hate to say it, but Matt Colville is not understanding literally 2/3 of what the game is. He still thinks this is a game, and the point of it is to sit down and have fun with your friends. That is one thing you could do with it. One thing, right? Like that's like if you thought that the point of a car was to do donuts in a parking lot, right? Yes, you can do donuts in a parking lot with a car. It's lots of fun. It's not even remotely all a car can do, right? And that's, so that's important, right? So one, now why should Matt Colville worry about something beyond fun? Because this is a high-end D&D commentator, right? You don't need to tell people that D&D is about sitting down around a table and having fun with their friends. That's the start of the game. That's the start of the purpose of Dungeons & Dragons, right? There are so many things beyond that. What if your campaign is so good it could warrant doing a novel, right? What if your campaign is so good that it can allow people to create dungeons in new ways using new material that actually creates a new form of art? Okay, I'll give you an example of this. I've been making a lot of Japanese mecha models, right? And these models use sprues, right? And I've been experimenting in making dungeons with sprues from Japanese mecha models. In my opinion, it's literally a new form of art, which is produced from Dungeons & Dragons, right? So, like, Matt Colville's being paid millions of dollars. You would expect him to understand some of the deeper purposes of the game, some of the deeper meanings of the game, right? And also, if you are trying to tell people that they should have fun with their friends, and you need to have fun and they need to have fun, why use such a big platform to say something so trite and meaningless, right? You don't need to tell people what to do to have fun, right? Dungeons & Dragons is a platform that allows you to do far more than have fun. You could tell incredibly collaborative, deep, compelling, philosophical stories, right? And so if you have a large platform like Matt Colville, you are showing them the very tip of the iceberg, right? And encouraging people to think that the tip of the iceberg is the thing. It's not. It's just the tip of the iceberg, right? So here's the other reason why he's outrageously, dramatically wrong, okay? Here you go. Yeah, let's get into this. All right, so here's the other reason why Matt Colville is dramatically wrong. There are tons of times where you as the Dungeon Master are going to need to run a game that you don't think is fun, right? And if you're not having fun preparing for a game, right, you still need to prepare that game. It's really important that you prepare that game. Why would you prepare a game that you don't think is fun, right? Maybe one of your players is going to think it's super fun, right? And that's the other thing is you don't need everybody at your table to have a ton of fun in every game. You need one player to have a ton of fun in your in each of your games. I think that's a good idea. Even that's not necessary, right? Sometimes we do labor that is not fun, right? And I feel like this is the true Dungeons & Dragons modern dungeon, is understanding that this game is for way more than fun, and only the most shallowest understanders of the game think that is the purpose of the game anymore, right? So I really feel it is critical to understand that there is more to this game than fun, okay? And the other issue is you have multiple players. You may have a game where some kind of event is going to happen for one of those players, and every other player may not think that's fun, and you may not think that's fun. But as a Dungeon Master, you better do your job and prep that game and deliver, right? Because that could be transformative for one of your players. And guess what? Your other players need to almond up, right? And be good and be kind and be patient while this other player has this life-transforming experience, which can absolutely happen at a table. People can learn truths in the middle of a Dungeons & Dragons game, right? And you might not have fun delivering that, but if you recognize that this is going to be critical for one of your players, then you need to power through and make that game. The other thing is life brings all kinds of like moods and scheduling problems and stuff. If you're not feeling it one day, you have got to almond up and do the right thing, right? And really like power through it. So, okay. So that's what I'm telling you. Now, why on earth would an incredibly intelligent, skilled dungeon master like Matt Colville actually say the opposite and say, oh, if you're not feeling it, you need to inject a bunch of crap that like makes it fun for you, or just show up to the table and say, I'm not feeling it. Joe, you run tonight, right? That is terrible, absolutely horrible advice. So why would he say this? Two reasons. One, he's privileged. He's incredibly privileged. So he has built this platform where he's now surrounded by players who are outrageously incented to do every single thing they can to stay in his game, which means to throw sunshine on him, right? So they're going to blow sunshine up his rear orifice anytime they want anytime they have to make sure that they stay in the game, right? Because guess what? His game isn't just playing D&D anymore. It's their celebrity. Come on, like, you know, and I'm shocked that he doesn't understand this. The other reason is, and this is, I'm going to put this here. I want you to think about this, okay? People have IQ. Matt Colville's IQ is very high, but people have EQ, emotional quotient, right? What is your intellectual quotient? What is your emotional quotient? And I think Matt Colville's emotional quotient, I'm not feeling it. I have a writer's block. I shouldn't be required to do this thing if I'm not completely happy and fun. Shows incredibly low EQ. That's perfectly okay. You know, not everybody has high IQ and high EQ. I'm not purporting to have, you know, high EQ either, but here I can see clearly he has a low EQ, right? And he needs to work on that, right? If you think that every session needs to be fun for you as a GM, that is an outrageous, as a dungeon master, that's an outrageously dangerous to your campaign view. It's drastically wrong. So I want to put it on record. Do not do this nonsense that Matt Colville gets away with because he's now surrounded by people who have a lot of incentive to blow sunshine toward him, right? And you know, and the reality is, you know, if he shows up on a game, he's like, I'm not feeling it, guys. Joe, you're going to have to run. Joe's not going to be happy, and most of the players aren't going to be happy. That doesn't help anybody. That is crazily, outrageously lazy. And so I don't want Matt Colville to be able to just shoo this ridiculous idea off to new and old dungeon masters without somebody saying, hey, dude, check your privilege, right? And really look at your situation and realize this is really bad advice. Even for you, right? Like you should be almonding up and doing the right thing and powering through and making games that are not exciting for you. It's like sometimes running a game is a chore. It doesn't have to be fun every time. And frankly, if you think the point of Dungeons & Dragons is fun, you're just taking the car out and doing donuts in a parking lot. It can do a lot more than that. Just say it, right? Well, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful, wonderful millennium.